Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Continuity Crisis. I'm Sean.
I'm Peyton.
So the kind of premise of this show is I will be explaining various DC storylines to my brother who hasn't read a whole lot of them, and obviously to you guys. And the sort of big hook of it is we'll be doing it in chronological order. We're not going to cover every single story they've ever made, because that's literally impossible. But I've sort of created like a highlighted list. So what we are talking about today in this first episode, as you can tell from the title of the video, is the first appearance of the Justice League.
Oh, okay.
So the reason we're starting with this is partially because obviously it's important for DC, but this is also important for Marvel, which we'll explain. We're also going to do like a sister series for Marvel. And so I'll explain when we do our first Marvel episode, but Justice League is really important to Marvel becoming Marvel, which is really funny. It's a great story. The Justice League, they show up in issue number 28 of The Brave and the Bold. And this issue was published in December of 1959. So DC existed long before this. They were created in 1934. That was when they were founded. They were called something different, but I'm going to refer to them as DC.
Yeah, you would lose me if you refer to it as anything else.
I see documentaries all the time when Stan Lee will be like, he'll like offhandedly refer to them as National. And I'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is National?
But no, it's because their original name was like National Allied Publications or some shit. Like you can actually see, here's a version of it. Superman DC National Comics. It's like, what is that? That's so stupid, but whatever. And they were actually the first company to produce comic books that were entirely original. Before that, it was just reprints of newspaper strips. So they actually were like the first ones to be like, no, we're doing all original stories. And then in 1938, they publish Action Comics #1, which features the debut of Superman. And it's massive.
Right.
It's a huge sensation immediately. And so DC and other publishers that pop up all like race to just make superheroes. And they're just pumping them out like crazy.
Yeah.
And they're really, really popular during the entirety of World War II. Kids liked them, of course. But soldiers also really dug them. I think just because they were easy to carry, they're fun, and they also were good morale.
Right.
Stories like the very first appearance of Captain America, he's punching Hitler.
Hell yeah.
And if you read early Golden Age Wonder Woman stories, this period is called the Golden Age.
Right.
She's fighting the Nazis and the Japanese.
Right.
Superman, they didn't keep him out of the war, but they didn't want to be disrespectful and like have Superman end the war because that's what he would do.
Yeah, if you throw Superman in there, he's just like, it's done.
The war is over.
Yeah.
But so he's more like a support, like buy war bonds, support your troops, and so that's kind of what Superman's doing. But after World War II, superhero comics they hit a huge decline. And I think it's just partially changing taste, partially soldiers didn't keep reading.
Yeah.
But also they creatively struggled. Mark Waid talks about that in a DC documentary, and his point is you go from these characters fighting in this incredible war, and what are they supposed to do now?
Yeah, what do they do now?
Fight bank robbers? Captain America becomes Captain America Commie Smasher. That's the direction they take Captain America in the 50s. But in the place of superheroes, other genres pop up. I mean, they were around, but they start to gain some more traction. Horror comics, romance, crime, westerns. And they start pushing boundaries like crazy. I mean, not like crazy, but you'd see them today and be like, what?
Why?
This is not a big deal.
Yeah,
but at the time, it's the 50s, people freak. And there's this psychologist, Frederick Wertham, who writes a book called Seduction of the Innocent. And that book is about how comic books are the main cause of juvenile delinquency. And parents believe this. It's a big deal. There are comic book burnings. There's a Senate hearing about this. There's footage. And the result is basically the publishers get together
Mhm.
and they decide to form a self-censorship group. The idea sort of being, we need to do this to ourselves so the government doesn't do it to us.
Yeah, do it for us, yeah.
Yeah, and so they form the Comics Code Authority, and you could see it in that top word. And basically, if you don't have that stamp, you're not getting published. And it's really, really strict. And the word horror itself, I think, is banned in, like, the rules at the time. Horror comics are done.
Right.
At that point. Like, as a result of this, horror's done. Companies go out of business. Yeah. These other genres kind of fall, but it leaves this nice little, like, space for superheroes to kind of come back.
Yeah.
So a lot of them had gotten canceled.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the books. But DC got a couple new editors in the 50s. Namely, one of them was this guy, Julius Schwartz. And DC asked Schwartz to bring the Flash back. There was a Flash in the Golden Age, Jay Garrick, who I think you're familiar with. He has the silly hat.
Yeah, the silly hat, yeah.
And he was like, okay, but let's do something completely different. Like, I like the power, I like the running fast thing, I like the red, I like the lightning bolt, I like the name. Let's get rid of everything else.
Everything else, it's gone. Out the window.
And the result of that is ultimately the creation of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
The second Flash, who's got this really, like, sleek, awesome costume. The stories have a bit more of a sci-fi twist.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 1956, and that starts the Silver Age, which is what we're in here.
Right.
And that goes really, really, really well. Flash is really successful. And so a couple years later, Schwartz goes, you know who I liked? Green Lantern. Green Lantern was also very different in the Golden Age. He was this guy, Alan Scott. Had a big purple cape. And I think he wore like a big, like, red, like, sweatshirt. And Schwartz was like, I like the oath.
I like the oath. That's it.
I like the oath.
Period.
I like the name. Everything else is gone. And so, 1959, they create Hal Jordan, who, again, much more science fiction based. The original Green Lantern was much more mystical. Very magic based character, I think. And so, like, okay, sci-fi, aliens, space, technology. He's got this cool, sleek costume.
The core, all that. Yeah.
Yes. And that goes pretty well as well. And so then they're kind of like, because again, this is the same year. So, like, that's a few months before Justice League. There was a Golden Age team called the Justice Society of America. And that was comprised of, like, superheroes of the Golden Age, such as Jay Garrick and Alan Scott. And so, okay, let's bring that back. But I don't like the name. I don't like the name Justice Society. That sounds old.
Yeah.
What do kids like? Baseball. This is the real reason. And what does baseball teams have? Leagues. Justice League. That's legitimately the reason they're called the Justice League. It's like, okay.
Kids like baseball.
That's pretty dumb.
I mean, it worked. Clearly it worked.
It worked out.
Like, it worked.
So, okay, we're going to do the Justice League. Now, looking at this cover, and I'll put it up on the screen, you might, who's missing?
Superman.
Superman?
And Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
Superman and Batman are in the team. It was felt by the writer Gardner Fox, as well as, I think, Schwartz, that they both didn't want Batman and Superman to overshadow the others.
Right.
And also, they were worried about this diluting those brands. If they had them appearing too much, they were like, we don't want to put out too much Batman.
We don't want to put them in too much. Some people will get tired of it. Clearly not the case.
No.
Clearly not the case at all.
It's so funny in retrospect.
Just put them on everything, man. It works.
I think they put out like 50 books a month nowadays, and a really good percentage of that is Bat books.
At least like 20.
And even that feels like softball.
Yeah.
There's a lot. They put out a lot of Batman.
This story seems kind of boring. Let's slap Batman on it too. It'll sell. People will buy it. That's cool.
Remember they made that Suicide Squad animated movie that's called Batman?
Yeah.
Sultan Arkham. They're like, well, no one's going to buy a Suicide Squad movie.
No one's going to watch this unless Batman's there.
So we're just going to call it Batman. Yep. That does not last very long because there's a certain point. One, because they're constantly cameoing. Because they're on the team. Like, every thing. So it's like, here's the team. Batman and Superman are there. And then they just don't do anything in the story. And so readers like, the hell are you doing? What is that? And so eventually higher ups have to come in and just be like, stop that. Batman and Superman are on the team and part of the adventures.
They're there.
Stop this. I hate it. But the initial founding team, so we've got Aquaman. Aquaman is a Golden Age character.
Yep.
He was created in 1941. He managed to kind of weather the storm of the post World War II decline.
Well, because I feel like it's kind of hard to like insert him into World War II, so I don't know if that would necessarily like bolster his popularity. I don't know. But, like, that's what I imagine it was.
Well, part of it is also Aquaman was a backup feature all of the time. Because, you know, books back then tended to be anthology pieces, so they would have multiple stories. Aquaman was always a backup feature. And I don't think ever got a cover story until after this. Like, he does not get his own book until after Justice League.
Nice.
And so, my theory, because Aquaman and Green Arrow are created by the same guy, Mort Weisinger. They debut in the same issue, Morph on Comics number 73. And they eventually get moved from Morph on Comics to Adventure Comics, their own separate adventures, of course. And the thing is, Weisinger becomes an editor at the same time Schwartz does. Or around the same time.
Right.
Weisinger's more in charge of the Superman line, and Adventure Comics, I think, fell into that.
Right, okay.
And was usually headlined in those days by Superboy, who was just young Superman. He wasn't his own character yet.
It wasn't a separate character. It was
it's Smallville.
Right.
And so they were backup features in that. And so I think that's what saved them, is Superman remained massively popular throughout the 50s.
Right.
He had a TV show. Superman is so popular, he gets a TV show in the early 50s. And the TV show is so popular, it increases the popularity of Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane to the point that they both get their own books. And they're top sellers of the day. They sold like crazy. They're massively popular. Like, that's just how big Superman was, that Jimmy Olsen could carry a book. And it was one of their best-selling books.
That's wild to me. Like, I just... Olsen and even Lois Lane just, like, being the focal point of a comic. And people still being like...
And they are...
I'll take it.
Bonkers. They go bonkers in those books. Like, Jimmy Olsen's constantly turning into things. Lois Lane is a crazy person because her whole goal is like, I want to marry Superman. Because this is the 50s. So that's her goal. And Superman is like, no. No.
I'm Superman. No.
But anyway, so Aquaman kind of just weathers the storm. And I have no idea why he's here.
Be nice. Dude. I love Aquaman.
But he's here. And this helps him a lot, I think. And then we got Wonder Woman. She was created about the same time as Aquaman, and popularity helped her. Because it is like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman in terms of like popularity of the superheroes at this time. Batman will eventually take over Superman, but at this point in time, Superman is top dog.
Yeah.
By a lot.
Yeah, it's not even close. Yeah.
Like we mentioned, Superman, who is obviously the first superhero, Green Lantern, who we've mentioned, Batman, Flash, and John Jones, the Martian Manhunter.
Really?
Yes, he's a founding member of the Justice League. He was created in 1955. So, like, right before the start of the Silver Age. And I think they're just kind of like, we don't know what to do with this guy.
We don't know what to do with him.
Which
Stick
is
him in there.
Literally what Martian Manhunter will be forever.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do with him. He's on the Justice League.
Yep.
that is Martian Manhunter's lot in life. Getting into the story, it starts with Aquaman. Aquaman, he's chilling. He's having a good time. His friend, Peter the Pufferfish, Peter comes up and he's like, I was just floating and I saw the craziest thing. A giant starfish fell from the sky and landed in the water. And I was like, well, that's weird. So I followed him. And this giant starfish found 3 normal starfish, made them big, and told them, we're going to conquer the earth. Go.
just go.
And then I came to find you because that's fucking weird and I don't like that.
That seems a little off, yeah.
And so Aquaman's like, that is weird. I'm going to call the Justice League. The Justice League already exists. This is not a story of them forming or meeting. They exist.
They're already there. They're doing it. No. Okay.
This is not an origin story.
Okay.
They have a base. Like,
Okay.
they're good.
So it's just already real and there. No.
Yep.
Okay.
No explanation. They
Cool.
just exist.
Okay. I mean, I like that sometimes. Just
Sure.
like starting and it's like it's already there.
Yeah. So Aquaman, he sends out the beacon.
Hmm.
It goes to Wonder Woman first, who is rejecting Steve Trevor's marriage proposal. He's like, oh, Justice League calling, gotta go. Then we cut to Superman, who is dealing with a meteor shower. Like, he's just punching meteors in space. And he's like, I'm busy. So I'm not going to be part of this adventure.
Cool. Love that.
Hal Jordan's got nothing going on. He's
just hanging out.
He's just hanging out in his jet because, he's a pilot. So he's just hanging out. He's like, all right.
Like, nothing better to do, I guess.
And then we cut to Batman, who in 2 panels is like, I'm chasing some villains, so no. And you don't see what villains he's chasing.
You don't see the villains.
You just see him. You just see the Batmobile and him in the Batmobile being like, I'm ignoring that. I'm not answering. I'm fucking busy. I'm not doing that.
Nope, not coming.
Flash is dealing with a tornado. He, runs around it.
Runs the opposite direction and stuff. Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, did that. I'm awesome. I'm going to go hang out with the Justice League.
Finish what I was doing. Guess I'll deal with the starfish.
Jean is a detective. Like, he poses as a human and is a detective. That's why he's called Manhunter.
Yeah.
Because he's a detective.
Yeah.
And his captain is like, go on vacation, bro. And then the second he says that, the communicator, hits him telepathically. He's like, I guess I'm spending my vacation as Martian Manhunter.
Sweet vacation. Hell yeah.
And then the 5 of them meet, and their hangout is actually, really sick.
Okay, that is kind of baller.
It's got this cool couch. They've got a nice bookshelf, a cool looking TV. They clearly got a science lab for Barry. And I like that. Interestingly, the caption as they're talking is like, as chairman of the Justice League, the Flash hands out the assignments. So I guess Flash is leader. Which is interesting.
Feels so ass backwards. Yeah.
But that's what it is. Well, if Superman would show the fuck up, he could be leader.
He would be leader. Yeah, fair.
And I think it's purely of these 5, Flash is the most popular at this point of the 5 that showed up.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed these 3 panels of the Justice League. They immediately split up. Because there are multiple Starros. Did I tell you his name is Starro?
You did not tell me his name
Okay, the giant
was
starfish, his name is Starro, the Conqueror. And so they've got these Starro deputies. And so, we've got to split up because there's multiple of them.
Right.
And so then we kind of devolve into chapters. So chapter 1 is Starro versus Green Lantern. Green Lantern finds one of the Starro deputies in the Rocky Mountains. And Starro is going after this military jet that's carrying an atomic bomb.
Okay.
Starro gets the bomb.
Okay.
Green Lantern is unsuccessful. And Green Lantern sees him flying away with the bomb. And he's like, okay, I'm going to stop him. Well, he's distracted by the plane. He has to save the plane.
Right.
So he builds a ramp with his ring, and the plane lands safely on the ramp. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go get Starro. And Starro sets off the bomb.
She wastes 0 time. Just oh, fuck you.
Yeah. So he wasn't trying to kill anyone. Because remember, this is 1959. So Godzilla has happened. Right? So the atomic power of this bomb powers Starro up. And gives him atomic powers.
So it's more like he eats it rather than...
Basically, yeah. It does explode, but then he also, absorbs it.
I thought they were just, immediately going to be just super dark with it. He just, gets the bomb. 30 seconds later, he's throwing it like a football at Denver.
No, he does it on himself.
Okay.
And so now he's got, think he can shoot. And Green Lantern's like, that sucks. This is not good for me. But luckily... So Starro, he's got this I think it's an eye, but it also clearly looks like a target. So I don't even think Hal does it on purpose. He's just subconsciously there's a target, pew, and it's Starro dead center, and that's his weakness. And Starro,
yeah, that makes it just like a big video game boss just has a giant glowing eye.
Yeah.
Huh, I wonder.
And he just turns back into a normal starfish because it's one of the 3.
Right.
So this is one of the deputies. So it just turns back to a normal starfish. Green Lantern's sick. I'm awesome.
I did
it. I wonder how everybody else is doing. And so then we cut to Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter get to do it together. So you get a team up.
Okay. So some of them will be together. It's just not going to be the full team. Okay.
Yeah. They will come together at the end. I'm just being a dick.
Okay.
So the second deputy grabs the Hall of Science building, just wraps it up, and goes, yoink, and just starts flying off with it. And his plan is, I'm going to steal the brain power. That's my plan. I'm stealing the brain power. And so Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, they fly in. Wonder Woman, at this point, can't fly. So that's why she has an invisible jet.
Right. She doesn't fly yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she stands on top of it. She lassos Starro. And Starro just kind of goes, yeah. And just yanks her off the plane. And she manages to land on the building, but she's not doing so hot. And then there's a bunch of like meteorite debris from Superman up in space.
Right.
Martian Manhunter goes, got it, and uses his super breath, because he has super breath, because he's really just Green Superman at this point.
Yeah.
And he blows all this debris at Starro, and Starro's like, jerk. And so Starro like moves really fast with the building. He like moves faster, and that causes the building to catch on fire. And Martian Manhunter is weak to fire. That's his kryptonite.
Okay.
Is fire. So he's like, well, I've got to solve this. So then he uses his breath to suck in clouds to them, which causes a rainstorm, which puts out the fire.
Puts out the fire. Yeah.
They do not explain this very well. There's just a line about it later, but they say Starro, because the first Starro absorbed the atomic energy, they all have it. They just all have it.
Okay.
It passes along. And so this Starro starts shooting lasers.
Okay.
And then Wonder Woman's deflecting them with her
the
bracelets. And then Wonder Woman goes, I've got an idea. She lassos her invisible jet. And then she's like, go! Down to the ground. Like, she like telepathically like commands it to like just dive. And she braces herself against the building. And the jet is so fast, and she's like, lassoing it, that wrenches it free from Starro.
Oh, okay.
And so it just goes zoop! And then Martian Manhunter just kind of just left to deal with them. But, so Martian Manhunter just goes, okay, there's a big target on him, so bam! Just head first.
First straight into the eyeball.
And it doesn't immediately work on him. So Wonder Woman is like, she gets the building safely to the ground. She's like, I'm going to come back up and help Martian Manhunter. And then she goes back up, and Martian Manhunter's like, no, it's good. He seems to be getting weaker. I'm all good. And so that's the second Starro taken care of.
Wait, so they don't actually, like, he just
It's because he hit it in the eye. And it just takes a second.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It just takes a little longer than it did with Green Lantern.
Okay.
But it basically is the same thing, where they hit him in the center.
And he turns back into us. Okay.
Yeah. And then we move on to Starro versus the Flash. And his chapter introduces the worst character of the story, and this is his first appearance. And it's this guy, Snapper Carr, who is a teenager, and he snaps when he talks. And he just mowed the lawn. He just finished mowing the lawn. Man, this grass mat is the coolest. Wait till Daddy-O cast his orbs on it. That's how he talks. The entire story.
Lovely. I love that.
His parents and his sister come out, and he's like, I finished mowing the lawn. Can I have my allowance? And they ignore him because they're mind controlled. And the entire city has been mind controlled by the third deputy.
Okay.
And they're all moving to, like, town square, where Starro, deputy number 3, is. And Snapper just sort of follows them there. And Starro is giving, like, a big villain speech. And then, like, mid-sentence, he's like, that motherfucker isn't mind controlled. Get that guy!
Get him!
And he shoots a laser at him. And Flash runs in and saves Snapper. And Snapper talks to Flash. And Flash is like, oh, I hate you. Oh, man, I do not like you. But also, why aren't you mind controlled? That's weird. Anyway, bye. I have to deal with the giant fucking starfish.
Yeah, I have to actually deal with this.
And so Starfish, he's shooting lasers, and Flash is like, I'm really fast. You're not hitting me. I'm like, really?
Sorry, bud.
And this issue is a really good showcase for Flash. You get to see Flash do a lot of cool things. He comes across the best. Everyone else kind of comes across pretty lame.
Yeah.
But Flash is like constantly like really cool, and they're like thinking like cool ways to use his powers. So he just runs around Starro, like he's just doing the tornado thing, and poor Starro's just
getting spun around.
And he's like, whoa, I gotta get to water. that really fucked me up. I'm going to water. And
Okay.
so he flies to a lake, and Flash is like, I'm really fast. I'm just going to follow you.
Yeah, I'll just get there first.
And once Starro's in the lake, Flash, he starts like drumming his feet on the ground
Mhm.
really fast, and it parts the lake like Moses in the Red Sea, which looks awesome. And
That's
it's
so
really
cool.
smart. And then once he finds Starro, he stops, and the water just goes BAM! And just knocks his ass out. And I'm pretty sure he kills him. I'm like 90% sure. Because I think Snapper later says something about him being knocked out, but the caption says, as the water subside and wash the lifeless starfish in against
The lifeless starfish.
So, like, I'm pretty sure he killed him.
Just killed him.
Which is funny. And Snapper shows up because he followed Barry in his car, and he's snapping. And Barry's like, oh my god, I'm going to do that to you. I'm going to do the water trick to you, man.
You're next.
But you're clearly like, there's something weird with you.
Mm-hmm. That we should probably figure out.
So
what
you're
that
coming
is.
with me. They find Snapper's parents, who are now
Mhm.
free from the mind control.
Mhm.
And they're like, Star number 3 told us where the big Starro's going to be.
Okay.
So now we know where Starro is going.
Mhm.
And so now we're into Starro versus the Justice League. Did you notice Aquaman hasn't done anything? It's because in the assignments, Flash was like, I don't know, just like keep an eye on main Starro and let us know if anything's up.
Right. Keep us alerted to any changes.
Poor Aquaman. So anyway, Starro is monologuing to himself.
Mhm.
And this has all been part of like an even bigger scheme. So obviously the first one was power us up with atomic energy.
Right.
Then we got some extra brain power.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized we could mind control people. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mind control all the world leaders of Earth. They're
Mhm.
all going to set off their atomic bombs. I'm going to absorb them all, and then I'm going to conquer the universe.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna be like the strongest thing ever, yeah.
Yeah.
Typical.
That is my plan. The Justice League shows up, and Green Lantern's like, well, I was really good against that earlier Starro, so I clearly have this.
Clearly I got it.
And then Starro just immediately reads his mind, and at this point, Green Lantern's weakness is the color yellow. Anything that is yellow, his ring is useless against. He can't do anything. It's a big defect in the rings.
Okay, so it was a later thing where like they made the yellow core like fear,
Correct.
and that's kind of why it counteracts.
that is a much later thing.
That's a much later thing. So it is
Yes.
legitimately just yellow.
It's just yellow. It's
Okay.
just a problem with the ring. And all of them.
Manufacturer defect, I
Yep,
guess.
that
Okay.
they never fix.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And so Starro reads out his mind, just goes, okay, turns himself yellow. Green Lantern's off the board.
Nice.
Green Lantern's done. Solved that. And so Starro tries to hit Snapper. The Barry's like, get Snapper out of the way. And then it's basically like, Wonder Woman, Jean, just distract Starro. I'm going to talk to Snapper.
Do something.
Just distract him. And so, because Barry's a scientist, and so he's like, Green Lantern, use your ring on Snapper as like a spectroscope. Because like clearly something's up with him. Something is wrong.
Right.
And what Green Lantern finds is that he's got a lot of lines of calcium oxide, lime. And Snapper's like, well, yeah, I used lime on the lawn. And then Aquaman, he gets to do something now.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, Oyster Man used quicklime to fight starfish who prey on oysters in the sea. And so Barry's like, okay, now we have a plan. So Hal goes and gets a bunch of just barrels of lime and just dumps them on Starro. Barry goes and runs and goes get some bags of lime.
Mhm.
And him and Wonder Woman just pour them out, and Martian Manhunter uses his breath. And so they just encase Starro in lime. He basically just becomes a lime statue. Like Dr. Doom at the end of the first Fantastic Four movie. Like, they do that. And so now he's just a statue. And then, because of his help, Snapper is made an honorary member of the Justice League. Because Snapper is basically like, here's a teenage character for like the youth
Right.
to relate to.
him. Yeah.
But he's also the most annoying person on Earth. And I hate his life. He's
what's
literally
the-
doing it at the end. They give him his like little Justice League thing and he's just snapping away. And you know, it's bullshit. You know who was really helpful in this mission? Who started the whole thing? Peter. The pufferfish.
Yeah, Peter
Is
the
he an
pufferfish.
honorary member of the Justice League?
Where's my man Peter Pufferfish's fucking little medal?
Fucking rude. And that's it. That's the first story of the Justice League.
So Aquaman does nothing.
Correct.
Green Lantern one taps one of the little ones and then just gets invalidated when fighting the main one.
Yes.
Wonder Woman doesn't really do much either. I guess
No.
pulls the building away.
Yeah, she manages to save some people. Like, she distracts Starro. She's not, like, totally useless, but, like, this is very much, like, Flash is cool.
Yeah.
Flash is rad.
Yeah,
I like
feels
the Flash.
The Flash is the main one that gets to, like, do stuff.
Yeah, and, like, I was curious. I was like, did Gardner Fox, like, create Barry or something? And, like, no, he didn't. But I was curious if this was, like, a favoritism thing, because that's my character. But no, it's not that. It's just,
popular.
He had cool ideas. And he had cool ideas, and Flash is really cool and does cool things in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the Batman and Superman situation is also really funny.
Really funny.
I don't think it's good, but, like, it is really funny and charming in its own way, but it is also, like, oh my god. And Snapper's awful. Snapper really takes a lot of it out. You know what's funny? Because they give him, like a communicator, and Jimmy Olsen has a very similar thing. He has, like, a watch he can use to call Superman. So I'm kind of like, why wasn't this just Jimmy?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that Jimmy's more popular than you guys. Like, we're not going to debase Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen's too fucking cool to hang out with you fucking squares.
And I'm curious if that's what that is. They're very popular very fast. So they do a couple more stories in Brave and the Bold, and then they get their own book.
Okay.
And they quickly will add Green Arrow, Hawkman, and the Atom, and obviously will force
Superman and Batman
to actually be active members of the League instead of constantly being like, no.
So do they just like cameo like every issue or so?
Basically. They're there every issue, and then it's just always like, we're busy.
Other shit to do.
Like they're on the team, but they just don't want to use them. Which I think that's part of the problem. Is like, well, why are they cameoing? Because at that point, you're just teasing the audience.
Like, why are they on the team to begin with? If every issue you're just gonna have Batman be like, no, too busy.
I'm fighting, Eggman today. that's what's on my calendar.
I'm fighting John Carpet. It's really important. He's super powerful. He's gonna destroy Gotham, I guess.
But yeah, so that's the first appearance of the Justice League. Obviously, big sort of seminal moment in their history. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, enjoyed the story. Be sure to check out our next video, which I think will be a Marvel video. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, it might be another DC, but the next one might be the first episode of the Marvel equivalent of this series. So thank you for watching. See ya.
Bye.
I don't have a physical. I thought I had a physical copy. I was like, well, it's in one of my collections for sure.
For sure.
And then I went through and I was like, oh, I don't have it.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, no. That's awful.